We're celebrating more than 2 million Canadians choosing Fidelity. And to say thank you, we're giving you a chance to win a branded Fidelity hoodie. Enter by visiting fidelity.ca/hoodie-contest. At Fidelity, performance is more than a number. It's progress, confidence, and momentum. So choose performance, choose advice, choose Fidelity. Now, here's today's show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Upside Plus. I'm your host, Emily Enuevo. Retirement. It's a major transition in many people's lives, a journey many Canadians need to prepare for, both financially and emotionally. But retirement isn't just about leaving the workforce. It's about starting a new chapter in your life and hopefully leading it with purpose, possibility, and confidence. Today, with my panel of guests, we are going to explore how to approach this stage of your life with clarity and optimism, and not just survive retirement, but thrive in it. So let's get to it. Please welcome Michelle Munro, Glen Davidson, and Peter Drake. Thank you so much for being here today.
Great to be here.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Emily.
Great to be back at Fidelity.
Yes, great to be back. Great to have you back, Peter. Now, Peter, this is sort of like a reunion for everyone right now. Peter, you were one of the original members of our research and retirement team, serving as former Vice President of Economic and Retirement Research. Michelle, you know Peter well, of course.
Yeah, Peter's the OG in retirement research at Fidelity.
He is, and you've been part of the tax and retirement research team for close to 20 years. Glen, close to 30 years at Fidelity before you retired, serving as Vice President of Regional Sales for many, many years. Yeah. And all of you at different stages of retirement or thinking about retirement. Glen, I'm going to start with you. Newly retired, a few years into it, I believe. How has that journey to retirement been for you so far?
It's been great, and it's 2.5 years, actually, to be specific.
Okay.
I can say, though, that I was working hard. I was dealing with family. I wasn't thinking about it years ago and didn't have my sights set on it. But then I started to talk to people who were either planning for retirement or who had just retired. Started to hear what they were going through, how their planning was, their trips, the fun that they're having, and it was a very positive discussion. So I started to look at my own situation. I looked at the ages of my kids. I thought of the fact that my dog will want to play fetch a lot more. My wife was happy with it. And so I decided to set a target, and I worked towards that. I gave lots of notice. And didn't have any second thoughts. And I think that's an important thing too. When somebody thinks, I've decided on a date, if you start to waver, that's a bit of a litmus test, I think. Certainly didn't. And it was a wonderful experience to conclude my time here at Fidelity. And then it's been wonderful since as well.
So a great path there, many factors going into that decision. Peter, I'm going to turn to you. You retired from Fidelity back in 2015. How was that path for retirement for you?
Well, I came to Fidelity ostensibly for 2 or 3 years. And I had already retired from a job, a career job. And it stretched into 9 years. I loved working here, great team, worked with Glen, worked with these guys.
Yes.
But I got to the point where I said, if I want to go out and paddle my canoe more, ride my bike more, I am getting older, so maybe I should think about it. And I did a huge amount of traveling for Fidelity. My wife was wonderful about it. But I think she was getting a little tired of me being away. So I recognized that it was time to head into retirement. And I can't believe it's more than 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's incredible. Michelle, you've noticed a lot of trends, a lot of research on how Canadians view retirement. What have you noticed over the years?
We do a lot of research in the retirement space. And in the last 20 years, Canadians are telling us that retirement is becoming more complex. And there's reasons behind that. Well, just general increased cost of living. Longer life expectancies, so people are living longer, as well as an increase in retirement lifestyle. So really want to enjoy that retirement lifestyle. So all that to say is that people are thinking about it more, understanding the complexities, and want to be intentional about how they live and ultimately thrive in retirement.
Absolutely. Now, I want to frame this conversation around 5 pillars of thriving in retirement is the theme. So we'll go through each pillar, give me your stories, give me your thoughts, your insights, really interested to hear them all. The first pillar is about blending part-time work or work in retirement. This is a huge topic. Peter, I'm going to start with you. I know you have a lot of writing and consulting in your retirement life. How has that what has that brought to you in your retirement chapter?
Well, it's brought a number of things. A sense of purpose. I'm really fortunate because I do 10 economics presentations every year for a small investment group.
Yeah.
And the great thing about that is that there's somebody willing to listen to me. If I tried to do that for my wife, she'd say, never mind, I don't want to hear about it. But this group are willing to listen. It's hard work to put it together because I'm the research assistant, the editor, the slide maker, the proofreader. But the point is, knowing that I've got to make this presentation for 35 or 40 minutes gives you a different take on thinking about economics than if you just read about it. It's because you read about it in terms of what can I say, or you look at the data and you say, look, what can I say that will enlighten the group I'm talking to? So it's a lot of work, but it gives me a sense of purpose, and it makes my brain work in a way that it probably wouldn't work otherwise.
Well, that's what studies have shown, that working in retirement life keeps you socially connected and mentally active. Is that your experience?
Absolutely right. And there are other things. I'm in a Probus group. It's a retired people's group.
Okay.
And that is a great way to replace the social life that you might not realize you'd had when you were working, but you did. And so you need to replace that after.
You've talked about this before, Glenn, just still staying socially connected in retirement. Do you suggest working in your retirement chapter? How's that been for you?
For me, it's been wonderful. I think people have to look, though, people that are planning for retirement have to think, will I need to supplement my retirement income? Or would I like to because, like me, I like to get rewarded for efforts. And it's been very good to keep connected and so on. And so I think that people watching this need to think, what's going to be important to me? And for me, Fidelity, fortunately for me, came to me and said, would you like to do some stuff on the side, hosting events, and moderating a few webcasts and so on. And that's wonderful because I do keep in touch with everybody. I love to know what's going on. I grew up at this firm pretty much. And so it's great to be connected. But as Peter said, it's also very mentally stimulating because what we do is preparing and being ready and being on. And I think that that's a wonderful position to be in.
So a lot of positive factors there. At the same time, maybe for the older generation, I know for my parents' generation, they work 30, 35 plus years. They don't want to work anymore in retirement life. They want to relax. But that view has changed. I feel like that view has changed, and part-time work is being talked about in your retirement chapter. How have you seen those trends, Michelle?
So
in
the
our
research is
survey?
showing that people are increasingly want to do a phased-in approach to retirement, and that looks at for various different ways. Retiring from a primary career, then doing a second act. Sometimes it's doing things that are part-time, sort of a little here. It's just more of a gradual approach to it, phased in. And the reasons behind that, sometimes it's financial, but the financial is to thrive, to do a little bit of extra. It's also, as the gentleman said, being engaged, being social, using mind in a different way, really having purpose in retirement.
So is work in retirement the same as work when you were in your working life, or is it different? Is it better? I mean, how's it been for you?
I think if for somebody it's the same as what they were doing, then why did they retire?
Right.
And so for me, it's very different. And I was going to add on to what Michelle said. And I think what viewers have to consider is, what else may I want to do that's complementary to what I've done over the years? It doesn't have to be in the same field. But I think it's been wonderful. But I think it doesn't have to be the same as what you did before, or the frequency of what you did before. And people that I'm speaking to who are saying, I'm thinking of retiring, how did it go for you, and what are you doing now, and so on, they would like to tailor it down so that they do have more time on their calendar for what they find important in life.
Emily, there's one caution here. Planning to work in retirement as a significant part of your retirement savings is not a particularly good idea, because you don't know how you'll feel. Some people just get tired of working. You don't know what's available, and it's going to depend to some extent on what you did. Now, I'm really lucky because I can continue to do economics, which is a lot of what I did during my career. So do it by all means, but don't not save because you're going to work in retirement.
Well, and what you're doing is there's nonstop information that you need to disseminate to this group that you're speaking to as well with economics.
Sure.
Whereas somebody may be in a job where it's less involved
Yeah.
and just say, no, I don't need to do that ever again.
Right.
You'll have no shortage of things to talk about.
It changes and changes and changes, and that's what keeps it interesting.
Exactly.
I mean, I've been doing it for a long time. You were really young when I started, Glenn.
Still am.
Now, the second pillar about thriving in retirement goes hand in hand with possibly doing part-time work in retirement, and that's prioritizing purpose, either volunteer work or charity work. Peter, I know you have a lot of passions. Can you expand on what type of new experiences you've had during retirement?
There are two. One is having two grandchildren, one from each of our sons. We have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. Now, I used to talk about that when I was doing retirement presentations for Fidelity, and I joke about the fact that, hey, you're going to be a grandparent, it's all fun, no responsibility. But I've learned there are other things. You have a very special relationship with grandchildren, and something that I didn't expect, you get to observe them in a way that you didn't when you were bringing up their parents. And I've talked to other people, and they all say the same thing. I think we were too busy bringing them up. The other passion is music. Now, I've been involved in music my whole life. I used to be a trombone player, and this is kind of a retirement story because as I got older, I developed glaucoma, which is an eye issue, and so you can't blow a horn anymore. So I switched to singing, and that happens in retirement. You have to pivot.
Yeah.
And the other part was the pandemic. So I was singing in a choir. We kept going. We started by recording on our iPhones, and every time we heard ourselves, we said, I didn't know I sounded that bad. But we kept going. And so we wound up, rather than singing an hour or two a week, we sang several hours a week.
Oh, wow.
And our voices got better. And we were able to take a few risks in doing some more things. So I've kept that up. So those are my two passions at the moment.
So practice makes perfect. And the fact is that you have essentially more time on your hands to pursue those passions
Exactly
and those
right.
hobbies.
Yeah.
How about for you, Glenn? Was it difficult to find your interests and find what you really enjoy doing in the few years that you've been retired?
I was always aware of my interests, and they do center around music as well, but not playing or singing, unfortunately. But I am on the board of directors for a community nonprofit radio station, which for me is very, very interesting, CIUT
cool.
89.5. It's community funded, it is commercial free, and as a board, we're working really hard to keep it alive and to keep it the way it is right now. And so that's a passionate thing for me. I've been a listener for 30 years. But I love music and love the independence of what that station brings. And so that's very different than the work that I did before. And it's a fascinating way to kind of round out part of my brain that maybe I wasn't tapping into as much before.
That's really, really neat. And Michelle, why is it important for retirees to find their purpose really in that specific chapter in their life?
Well, it's also, I think you want to be intentional every phase of life. But there's a little bit less structure around the retirement phase, and it's a little bit more open. Just reflecting on both of Peter and Glenn's responses, these were things that you were interested in your working years, and have just taken a bigger role in your retirement years.
Yes.
Whereas if you think about, well, if you live to work, well, then your transition into retirement is going to be pretty hard. Whereas you work to live, and then that life in retirement takes on more space. It's an easier transition.
I do hear that concern from people who are considering retirement, where they haven't had the time, or so they say, to figure out what it is that they really like that can help round out activities when they do retire. But I think they just need to look around and really absorb what that is.
Yeah. And I would say, when you think about finances, Fidelity, we're mutual funds, what have you, finances will help in retirement, but it's the purpose that's going to fuel your retirement.
Right. And with that purpose comes the third pillar about redefining what thriving means in retirement. Like you were saying, Michelle, earlier, work to live or live to work. So Peter, the one paper you wrote about the 7 peaks to your retirement path, there was one point you made in there about being the CEO of your retirement life. I love that concept. Yeah, exactly. What do you mean by that? Can you expand on?
This is really important because for most people, retirement is the first time in their lives when they can be the CEO. They're in charge of their lives. I mean, you're a kid, your parents, you're maybe married with children. you've got a job, all those things. Other people are telling you what you need to do. You get to retirement, there's still going to be some things that you have to do, but you're now in the position to actually make the decisions.
Yeah.
The difficulty is that you've said a gazillion times, gee, I wish I could do this, I wish I could do that. When it comes to the point where you can actually do it, sometimes there's some hesitation because you're not used to making those decisions. But recognize that you are now the CEO, make those decisions, and look, you may make some bad ones, you can change it, you can change what you're doing. But what is important is recognize that you are the CEO, you are running the organization, and make the decisions, and you'll thrive.
Do you feel like there was a lot of pressure when you first retired to fill your time and fill that space, and you just, you need to be busy? How did you feel when about that part?
Your emails almost go to zero. and
It's a big
your texts
switch.
and your Teams and everything else, and Zoom becomes infrequent. And so I think that there are people, I think you mentioned it earlier, about people that are defined by what they do. And they say, I've got this void. It's like a black hole now. What do I do?
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend of mine last week who's retiring at the end of this year, and he's already figuring out how he's going to categorize the 1,000 LPs that he has.
Okay, that's
So
one.
there's
That's
people
one
that
task,
are just saying, you know what, I want to reduce all that other stuff and add in other things that are of more interest to me or that are more fulfilling. And so there is a big change, though, and I think that there probably are people, especially, you have to think of the seasons too. In Canada, the winter can be kind of dark and dreary, and I think if people are retiring in the winter, which is very typical, it can be kind of a dull time. And so it is important.
Skiing.
And go on a trip and do something. I think that's an idea, is have something planned for when you retire to start to wean away. But it's not unlike college or university. You're getting into the cycle of exams and everything else, and coming out of that, I remember that took me a few years to kind of get away from worrying about April and December, from an exam standpoint. And so definitely a change, though, big change.
Okay, the fourth and fifth pillars of thriving in retirement go hand in hand. So this is all about smarter retirement income planning and knowing where you want to settle and how you want to settle. I mean, this is a huge part of retirement planning. Knowing where your finances are going to be, knowing where it's going to come from. Michelle, you're an expert in this. You've seen it grow over the last 20 years in our retirement survey. What are your suggestions to Canadians on how to better prepare for retirement financially and emotionally?
Right. And I think especially in the accumulation years, you're focused on saving that nest egg, whatever your target number might be. And our research shows that those who have a retirement plan, a written financial plan, they feel better financially, but also emotionally, socially, physically, which are 4 pillars of overall well-being that comes from having that written financial plan. So the importance of having a plan.
Absolutely.
Writing pen to paper. Right. And also thinking about the vision. What is it going to look like? It might change. It will ebb and flow. But all these pieces come together to really having the retirement, being intentional, having the retirement that you're looking for.
So how much do you actually need to have saved up for retirement? We've done the retirement survey now for 20 plus years.
Right.
How has it changed over the years, and how much should Canadians have?
I get that question asked all the time. The research shows about 20 years ago, adjusted for inflation, people said about $650,000. Today, it's just over $1 million. But I want to roll that back because people are going to hear a number and say, whoa. It really depends on what are you going to do in retirement. What does that look like?
Exactly.
And so it's sitting down with a financial advisor can really be helpful and instrumental to helping someone create their plan. And there's definitely not a one size fits all.
Peter, being an expert in this field too, and now living in retirement, how have you adjusted to retirement life in terms of like finances, financial planning, viewing, your finances in retirement? How has that changed for you over the years?
Well, I was fortunate that my saving for retirement went very well. And the great thing about that is that in retirement, the last thing you want to worry about is money. And something that bothered me when I was with Fidelity is I was occasionally hearing advice out there in public discussion saying, well, you don't really have to save as much as you think because your expenses will go down. Sure, some will. but you'll still have expenses. The furnace will break when it's minus 25. That's happened to us. And you got to be able to say, yes, I can replace that furnace and there's going to be no disruption in anything else. So you've got to be prepared for that. And I used to get, frankly, really mad when I'd hear so-called experts say, well, you know, people don't spend everything they've saved. Okay, is it better to have some left over and not worry about it? You can let your kids have it. You can donate it to a charity. So you don't want to undersave. You don't want to live a terrible life while you're saving either. I mean, balance is important. But you've got to be prepared for things, for expenses that you didn't think you might have.
Like the grandchildren.
Well, yes, the grandchildren, yes. Because grandparents have a universal right to spoil their grandchildren and their parents can do nothing about it.
But it is something to think about. Like, are you still supporting your children in retirement life? Are you now going to support in other ways with grandchildren? Where are you going to settle? Where are you going to move? All these types of questions are important to ask yourself pre-retired life and retirement.
Right.
Does that sound about right?
Creating that vision of what that looks like. One of our surveys, we asked, well, what do you want to do in retirement? Number one answer, consistently, 20 years now, I want to travel in retirement. But travel can mean so many different things to so many different people. So you could have a more economical, let's take a road trip across Canada, or we could do multiple luxury cruises. So there's costs that are associated with that. So thinking about that vision, what does that look like? And then adding some financial numbers to that.
And obviously revisiting with your financial advisor, your financial plan, with every chapter, new or old in your life, really, really important to have that conversation with your advisor and with your loved ones. Would you say?
Yeah, and a lesson I learned back in the late 90s, as you'll recall, when the technology boom was happening, and I was a wholesaler at Fidelity out on the road talking to advisors. When the technology market corrected, for lack of a better word, there were a lot of investors who were completely focused on technology. And as a young person, I saw what that means to someone who's retired and they've seen their nest egg dwindle to almost zero in many cases. And so keeping diverse, talking to your financial advisor, absolutely having that plan. I do liken it to someone who buys a first house and just has enough to buy that house. But as you said, Peter, then the furnace goes. The roof blows off, the basement floods. That sounds horrible, but that happens.
It happens,
And then they realize, I've got to have all this extra finance now in order to handle that. And I see that with retirement. Most people say, I'm retiring and I'm going to travel. Every month I'm going to be somewhere. The Canadian dollar doesn't get you very far if you are leaving our borders. And it's wonderful to get out and experience things, but it is at an expense.
Yep. And it comes with budgeting and planning.
But you also, sorry to cut you off, but you also shouldn't hold back from that and say, well, I'll save a little longer or we'll see what happens with the market. It is important to be having fun while you're able, as you talked about earlier, Michelle.
Right.
It's about facing the realities, it sounds like, of retirement life. It may not always be, I'm going to head straight to the beach and everything's going to be fine and dandy. May not be the reality for everyone.
It's interesting because the research shows that people want to travel in retirement, but neither of the gentlemen have spoken about travel extensively.
Well, we don't
I'm
want
sure
to brag,
it's a piece of it.
I was just, but it
for your that comes from volunteer work, being part of various organizations.
Travel's wonderful, and it's great to be able to do that, and we've been doing that quite frequently.
And you don't have to necessarily be really exotic about it. We used to do car trips to various parts of the United States. We kind of stopped that in recent years, but we've spent a couple of summers or parts of summers in Prince Edward Island. Fabulous place to go. And if I'd gone to the West Coast, I would probably be having exactly the same reaction. Lots of places to go in Canada.
Absolutely.
But it is important to know that the bills don't stop. CRA still comes knocking. And nobody says, oh, you're retired, you got a free pass. And so I think viewers need to understand that, is that there is the constant flow of need for money. And so you have to be prepared.
Definitely a reality, to a financial reality at that in one respect. But also what I'm hearing is that you do have a lot of flexibility to really pursue your passions and your hobbies, and it just with proper planning could be a really fulfilling part of your life. Now, as we just wrap up the show, to all of you, just a last message to Canadians on how you can really thrive in retirement. Peter, what would you say?
Use it or lose it. Exercise your mind, exercise your body. Now, it doesn't matter how good you are or what you do, but if you do those two things, you will get much more enjoyment out of everything else. And if you do happen to run into a medical issue, you're likely going to recover faster. So if there was one piece of advice, it's use it or lose it.
Glenn, what would you say?
Well, I think it's about having a plan, thinking about when you'd like this to begin, thinking about interests that you have that you can grow, thinking about a hobby maybe that you want to pick up or a song that you'd like to sing, and really a plan for having some fun as well. I just think that's so important.
And Michelle, for those who are approaching retirement, what would you suggest to them?
Be intentional.
Yeah.
Create that vision. Think about what you want to do, how you're going to go about doing it. Create a plan to fulfill that intention.
Michelle, Glenn, Peter, thank you so much for sitting with me today, for being here and sharing your insights. It was really a wonderful conversation. I was so glad to see all of you here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily.
Thanks.
For this video and more investor content, check out Fidelity Canada on our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Upside Plus.
Thanks for listening to, or watching, Fidelity Canada's The Upside podcast. Subscribe on your podcast platform of choice so you don't miss an episode. And if you like what you're hearing, please leave a review or a 5-star rating. Fidelity mutual funds and ETFs are available by working with a financial advisor or through an online brokerage account. Visit fidelity.ca/howtobuy for more information. While on fidelity.ca, you can also find more information on future live webcasts. And don't forget to follow Fidelity Canada on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, or X. We'll wrap things up today with a quick disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Fidelity Investments Canada ULC or its affiliates. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as investment, tax, or legal advice. It is not an offer to sell or buy or an endorsement, recommendation, or sponsorship of any entity or securities cited. Read a fund's prospectus before investing. Funds are not guaranteed. Their values change frequently and past performance may not be repeated. Fees, expenses, and commissions are all associated with fund investments. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.